First thing was angle, and that's two rays and a vertex. They share a common vertex, okay? And this here, the vertex, is that common endpoint. That common endpoint of both rays, okay, is known as your vertex there, okay? Now they go into measuring angles on page 351. We'll get there when I know everybody has a protractor. It defeats the purpose if not everybody has the protractor, and I try to explain how to do it, then I got to go over it all again. So we will do it, but not until I'm sure that everyone has it. It's on the plan for today. 352 at the top, an acute angle is less than 90. The key to understanding angle measurements is making sure that you understand what a right angle looks like. You know what a right angle looks 351. Okay. If I know that a right angle looks very similar to what letter in the alphabet? L. And that measures 90 degrees. Knowing that any acute angle is going to be less than that, and any obtuse angle is going to be greater than that. A lot of times you can tell just by doing the eye test if it's acute, if it's less than 90, or if it's going to be greater than. Now, a straight angle is a straight line. Okay? It's the same thing. Objective 2, any questions on angles, just the basics? We've been doing the basics with angles for a long time. Good? Complementary, supplementary. How do you remember the difference between the two? What was the trick I taught you last year? Complementary, supplementary. How do you keep track of which one is 90 and which one is 180? Yeah. Mia, do you remember? And just focus on the first letter. C comes before S in the alphabet. 90 comes before 180 when you're talking in terms of numbers. That's how I always try to remember it. It's a real simple way to remember the difference between the two. So two angles that equal 90. So that could be, if I have one angle that's 50 degrees, its complement is going to be how much? If the two of them together equal 90, I've got one at 50, the other has to be 40. Because 50 and 40 give me 90. We would call that its complement. What would, if I have a 10-degree angle, what would be its supplement? Its supplement. This 10-degree angle, and what other angle is going to equal 180? 170. Very good. So complements and supplements. So let's take a 60-degree angle. I want its complement, and I want its supplement. How do I find it? Complement, I'm going to take this measurement and subtract it from 90. Supplement, I'm going to take this measurement and subtract it from 180. So its complement is going to be 30 degrees, and its supplement is going to be 120. 30 and 120 is a difference of how many degrees? How many degrees difference is it between 30 and 120? 90. How many degrees difference is it between 90 and 180? 90. Okay? So it should be consistent. If you're asked to find the complement and the supplement of an angle, which I'm pretty sure you're going to be, You need to know how to do that. Try one of those on your own? Yes, no? You don't need a calculator for that. It's 90 and 180. 75. So to find its complement, I'm going to take 75 and subtract it from 90, and I'm going to get 15 degrees as its complement. To find its supplement, I'm going to take 75 and take it away from 180, and I get 95, 105. So it's complement and supplement. Any questions there? Kennedy, you good? Okay. Make sure you understand this process. Now, getting into the meat of what's going on for today, I'm confident that you know acute angle, right angle, straight angle, obtuse angle, and you can even grasp the complementary, supplementary stuff. Where it becomes a little bit challenging, where it tests your just looking at things in a new way, is when they start to talk about adjacent angles and vertical angles and congruent angles and all that kind of stuff. All right? So you'll have to recognize, just from something like this, we can learn a lot. Okay? So if we want to tackle adjacent angles, they share a vertex and a side but have no interior points in common. If we said angles that are next to each other, could you give me an example of two angles that you see that are next to each other? Chris? 1, 2, 3, 4. Give me two that are next to each other. 1 and 2. If they share a vertex, angle 1 is there. Do they share a side? Right here. And angle 2 goes this way. So angle 1 and angle 2 would share a side, and they share a vertex. Okay? But no interior points in common. What else could we say about angles 1 and 2? We could also call them not only adjacent angles, but we could also call them what? Because their measurements together end up combining to give you what? They combine to give me what? 180, which is a straight line, which makes them supplementary. Two angles that will add up to 180. How do I know that those two, even though I don't know what their angle measurement is, how do I know that they add up to 180? Because you said they give us this straight line. Give me another pair of adjacent angles, angles that would be right next to each other. 2 and 3. 2 and 3, they share the vertex, and they share this side. The other one shared this one. 2 and 3 would also be considered supplementary because 2 and 3 together end up giving you this straight line. So there's a lot that you can see there. Vertical angles come opposite each other. So the opposite of 1 is which one? 3. So angle 1 and angle 3 are vertical angles. Not next to each other, they're opposite each other. They go across that vertex. Okay? What else do you know about them? Vertical angles are also congruent, which means they have the same measurement. Now check it out how this works. Number 1, angle 1. Does that look like, if you had to classify it as acute, right, obtuse, or straight, just angle 1, how would you classify it just by the way it looks? Obtuse. Do you have a guess as to about how many degrees this would be? It's like about 130. Right? We'll call it 130. So if angle 1 is 130, and I know that it's congruent to angle 3, then angle 3 must also be Can I take that information and find the measurements of angles 2 and 4? You bet. Why? Because I know that angle 1 and angle 2, we call them supplementary, which means together they equal 180. So if this one's 130, angle 2 has to be 50. Because 130 and 50 equal 180, and that gives us this straight line. Angles 2 and 4 are also vertical. Vertical angles are also congruent. So I know if that one's 50, this one also has to be 50. And I've got supplementary angles all over the place. 4 and 1, they're also supplementary because they give me this straight line. 1 and 2, we said, give me this straight line. 2 and 3, we said, are supplementary. So there's a lot of information that takes place just with a pair of intersecting lines and the angles that they produce that will help you understand the vocabulary just a little bit better. Now, they'll ask you questions like, give a pair of obtuse vertical angles. A pair of obtuse vertical angles. What fits that description? A pair of obtuse vertical angles. Yeah. Which one? A pair of obtuse vertical angles. So we need two of them. They need to be obtuse, and they need to be opposite each other. Africa. No. Which are angles 1 and 3. A pair, 2, of obtuse vertical angles. They come opposite each other. So it'd be 1 and 3. So a lot of times they'll take this vocabulary and they'll combine it into one question asking you to identify it. Okay? A pair of supplementary angles, we've already covered that. We used 1 and 2, 1 and 4, 3 and 2. Okay? Lines that, or angles that combine to give you a straight line. So there's a lot of information there. If we talk about, what else are they going to be asking? Do you have 7-2? You should have it on the back of 7-1. Just take that out real quick. Ask you. Okay. So if we look at this and we take a look at, I'm not worried about numbers 8, 9, 10, but 4 right angles. For number, is that 11? Where can you identify one of your right angles right away? Right here, where you have that marking there, that always tells you that's a right angle. So what I need to do is say, okay, in order to write this down, my middle, it takes 3 letters. I need to make sure that my middle letter is also my, what was the vocab word? My vertex. Okay. Now, if I know that this one is a right angle, I also know that this one here is a right angle. Why? What do we call those before? Angles that come opposite each other are called vertical angles, and vertical angles are also congruent. So, Y and what? Y and I could use M. I could use S. Either way. Okay. Now, when I look at this angle and this one, how do I know that this one, this big one, is also 90 degrees? Because the measurement of this one and this one give me what? A straight line. So 90 plus another 90 equals 180. How am I going to label this one? Q, N, T goes this way. I'm looking for this one. M, or S. What's the only one that's missing? This one here, right? VXW. It looks like it, but I don't know if it is for sure. And I don't know how it looks on your sheet. I'm just doing a real rough drawing. Which is the only one that's missing? Y, N, S, or we've been using M. We already have this one. That's not the one I was looking for, was it? Is it this one? So Y, N, T. Okay? So again, if you look at number 12, two pairs of obtuse vertical angles. I'm looking kind of where Chris was looking before with that VXW area. On my sheet, VXW looks like it's almost right. On your sheet, does VXW look like it's a right angle? What does it look like? So if that one is obtuse, this one here, then the opposite, or the vertical angle, should also be obtuse. So if this one here is obtuse, right? Then the opposite one would be this one. Right? So you've got to label that one correctly, making sure that X is going to be your middle, or your vertex, right? Order matters, yeah. At least if you're talking about that, the vertex needs to be in the middle. Okay? And then 13, two pairs of adjacent supplementary angles. Angles that are next to each other that together equal 180, a straight line. And then 14, two pairs of complementary angles. I see right here a right angle that was split. So therefore, this angle and this angle are complementary, because together they equal right angle. That was 14. In red here is 14. Y and P and what? T and P. And where are we with vocab? Oh yeah, we can do the vocab too, since you're already mostly done. So vocab for 7-3. And quiz. And then we're going to do worksheet 7-2, numbers 8 through 14. And vocab 7-3 and quiz. It's much less